Welcome to this session. Our today's topic is the history of yoga. It is quite difficult to explain the history of yoga in just one video. The relationship between human and supreme consciousness is not new. So, the concept of yoga is also not a new concept. Therefore, it is really tough to explain the history of yoga in just one video. Yet, I will try to give a basic idea of the origin, history, and development of yoga. So, let's start. The practice of yoga is believed to have started with the very dawn of the civilization. The practice of yoga is believed to have started with the very dawn of civilization. The propounder of the yoga system is said to be Hiranyagarbha. See, this Hiranyagarbha is not an individual, or we can say personal god or Ishtadev. Hiranyagarbha, who represent the creative and evolutionary force in the universe. In the yogic lore, Lord Shiva is seen as the first yogi or Adi yogi and the first guru or Adi guru. So Lord Shiva is considered as Adi yogi in yoga. It is believed that first time the knowledge of yoga is given by Lord Shiva to 7 rishis, and later those rishis will spread this knowledge to all over the world. So Lord Shiva is considered as Adi Yogi. There are references about yoga in the Vedas and Upanishad. See, this is the history of yoga. Approximate 10,000 years ago, the Vedas and Upanishad were composed, and there are references about yoga. Approximate 7,000 years ago, Ramayana composed. There are also mention of yoga in Aranyakanda. Approximate 5,000 years ago, Bhagavad Gita composed. It is one of the ancient book on yoga. Approximate 2500 years ago, Patanjali Yoga Sutra composed. It is another famous book on yoga which was written by Maharshi Patanjali, and approximate 1000 years ago Hatha Yoga composed. See, these timeline are approximate, not proper. The concept of yoga is not only 10,000 years old, it is more than that. Because the practice of yoga is believed to have started with the very dawn of civilization. And this 1000 years ago, when Hatha Yoga is composed, it is also not a proper information. According to me, because Lord Shiva is also practiced Hatha Yoga. So the concept of Hatha Yoga also is not only 1000 years old. All these timeline are not proper. The greatest of the yogis is always said to be Yogeshwar Krishna himself. Yogeshwar Krishna, who is the most influential personality among the world, and especially in India, who is the propounder of Bhagavad Gita also, which is an authoritative work on yoga. He is considered greatest of the yogis. It is believed that he controlled his 16,000 nadis within his body. Apart from this, the practice of yoga is obtained partially by all traditions like Vedic, Sanatana Rishi, that is age old sage tradition, Buddha tradition, Jain tradition, Siddha tradition, Saint tradition, Islamic Sufi tradition, etc. Thus, the prominence of yoga is all time valuable, universal, and sovereign. The history of yoga is generally divided into five broad periods as follows. First, the Vedic period or Vedic age. Second, pre-classical period. Third, classical period. Fourth, post-classical period. And fifth, at present, that is modern times. So, the history of yoga is generally divided into five broad periods. Now, I will discuss this period one by one in brief, because it is not possible to explain elaborately within a short period of time. First, the Vedic period or the Vedic age. See, this period is marked by the emergence of the Vedas. This period is marked by the emergence of the Vedas. See, these Vedas or the Vedas were a collection of sacred songs, mantras, and rituals to be used by Vedic priests known as Brahmanas. So, the Vedas were the collection of sacred songs, mantras, and rituals to be used by Vedic priests known as Brahmanas. Clear? In the Vedas appear first mention of ascetic and ascetic practices. In the Vedas appear the first mention of ascetic practices. In the later writings of the Vedas, known as the Upanishads, the first clear references to yoga appear. And concept of withdrawing the senses, controlling the mind, and attaining liberation are also mentioned in Upanishad. Next, the Rig Veda is a sacred scripture of Brahmanism that forms basis of modern day Hinduism. So, Rig Veda is the sacred scripture of Brahmanism. It consists of sacred hymns in the praise of divinity. So, Rig Veda consists of sacred hymns in the praise of divinity. The other three Vedas are the Yajur Veda, that is knowledge of sacrifice, Sam Veda, knowledge of chants, Atharva Veda, knowledge of Atharvans or codes for everyday life, The Vedas contain oldest known yogic teaching called Vedic Yoga. See, in this period, people followed the dictates of the yogis or rishis, and life was lived in divine harmony. These rishis realized the ultimate truth through their intense spiritual and meditative practices. The yogis, living in solitude and seclusion, become known in this age. Clear? So there are clear reference about yoga in Vedic period. Next, but yoga is more ancient than Vedic period. Because the rishis are realized the ultimate truth through the practice of yoga. Next, pre-classical period. Pre-classical period is also very important in the point of yogic development, because one of the most outstanding yoga scriptures is the Bhagavad Gita, known as Indian psychology, which was composed around 5000 BC. Bhagavad Gita, which was written by Yogeshwar Sri Krishna, and this Bhagavad Gita contains solution to the problems of human life, which was given by Yogeshwar Sri Krishna, who is considered even a lord in India. According to the Bhagavad Gita, there are four paths which lead to establishing relationship with the Supreme. There are four paths. These have been designated as the yoga of perfect actions, that is called karma yoga. The yoga of perfect action, that is karma yoga. The yoga of perfect devotion, that is bhakti yoga. The yoga of perfect knowledge, that is jnana yoga. And the yoga of willpower, that is Raj Yoga, or we can say Dhyana Yoga. So there are four paths according to Bhagavad Gita. means according to Lord Krishna. These four paths are yoga of perfect action, yoga of perfect devotion, yoga of knowledge, perfect knowledge, and yoga of willpower or meditation. By going through these paths, we can establishing our relationship with the Supreme, or we can say we can connect ourselves with the Supreme. Clear? Next, the Bhagavad Gita consists of 18 chapters. And each chapter is called a yoga. Each chapter is highly specialized yoga, revealing the path attaining realization of the ultimate truth. Bhagavad Gita gives specific knowledge regarding the purpose of human existence, the immortality of the soul, and our eternal relationship with the Supreme. This knowledge applies to each and every one of us without exception. So clear? And this scripture, this important yogic scripture, were composed during this pre-classical period. Next, classical period. We can say this classical period is most important period. Because during the classical period, Maharshi Patanjali wrote Yoga Sutra comprising 196 aphorisms to explain the process and systematic analysis of practical methods for awakening and expanding the higher faculties of mind, intellect, quality of consciousness. During this period, Maharshi Patanjali wrote Yoga Sutra, which was most prominent book on yoga. And this book explains the process and systematic analysis of practical methods. For what? For awakening and expanding the higher faculties of mind, intellect, and quality of consciousness. One of the greatest monk, Buddha, who is also considered as a Lord, who existed a few centuries before this period, taught us eightfold path emphasizing on meditation. So Lord Buddha is also belongs from this period. And he taught us eightfold path emphasizing on meditation. Long lost to humanity, it was revived by Gautama the Buddha more than 2500 years ago on this period. Next, post-classical period. The great monk Buddha around 6th century BC had popularized meditation on the entire subcontinent. We all know that Lord Buddha was very famous personality to all over the world. However, there was a point of disagreement that one cannot start the spiritual practices with meditation immediately. It is really a difficult task because meditation is not easy or a cup of tea. One has to prepare oneself for meditation. During 6th century AD, when the influence of Buddhism has declined, some great yogis like Matseyendranatha and Goraksanatha set out to purify the system. Clear? There are many treatises on Hatha Yoga written during this time. So, two famous names or personalities in this period are Matseyendranatha and Goraksanatha. The main text written during this period are Hatha Yoga Pradipika by svatmarama ji, Gheranda Samhita by sage Gheranda, Hatharatnavall by Srinivasa yogi, which also discusses Ayurveda along with yoga, and Siddha Siddhanta Paddhati by Nityanatha, etc. These are the main text in this period, or these books or these texts are the books on Hatha Yoga. Guru Goraksanatha is believed to be the founder of Natha Sampradaya, and it is stated that the 9 Nathas and 84 Siddhas are all human form created as yogic manifestations to spread the message of yoga and meditation in the world. They were the yogis who revealed samadhi to mankind. Next, the present times, or we can say modern times. Integral yoga or Purna Yoga by Sri Aurobindo emphasized surrendering to the divine and opening to the divine force so that it may work to transform one's being. Integral Yoga or Purna Yoga by Sri Aurobindo emphasized surrendering to the divine and opening to the divine force so that it may work to transform one's being. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, who belongs from Bengal, records the path of Bhakti Yoga and divine love. It is said that Ramakrishna Paramahansa is only person who practiced every religion and said that every religion is true. He was a great yogi in the path of bhakti. He belongs from Bengal. To Ramakrishna, all religion and revelation of God in his diverse aspect to satisfy the manifold demands of the human mind. All religion are revelation of God in his diverse aspect to satisfy the manifold demands of the human mind. See, Ramakrishna Paramahansa was a Hindu. And he practiced every religion. Even he practiced Islam also. And after practicing all the religion, he said that every religion is true. He frequently said in Bengali that joto mat tato path. Clear? One of the greatest contributions of Sri Ramakrishna to the modern world in his message of harmony of all religions. In the late 19th century, yoga masters began traveling to the West. The most prominent of these was Swami Vivekananda, disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, wooed the audience at a lecture on yoga in Chicago. 11th September 1893, a landmark date for modern yoga. Swami Vivekananda is the most influential person is not only one of the most influential person, we can say most influential person in modern times. His thinking, speech are also relevant even today. He spread the message of Vedanta to all over the world. Subsequently, yoga and its tradition received strong inspiration and impetus due to pioneering efforts of several legends in India. They are T. Krishnamachari, BKS Ainagar, Swami Shivananda, so on and so forth. So, this is the origin, history, and development of yoga. As I said in the beginning, it is really difficult to explain it within a short period. I have just given all of you the basic idea of this. It is not sufficient, it is just an idea. I request all of you to read more about it from any reference books, and I will share a link of a documentary on the history of yoga in the description. I also request to all of you to watch that documentary. You all of you get a clear concept after watching that documentary. This is a good documentary on history of yoga. Apart from this, you can go for another reference book to know more about it. Thank you so much for watching this lecture. Stay tuned with us. Thank you.